Okay. So the first question I asked of them was kind of complex question. So there's 4 places I want to hear about, or maybe it's less than 4. It's the same place many times. But I said, share with us the place with which you most identify, a place with beauty that takes your breath away, a place in such decline that it breaks your heart, and a place whose recovery gives you hope.
Hello, Mike Kako. Everybody can hear me?
Hello.
First of all, mahalo, CNHA, Kaipo, for giving us opportunity and platform to share our perspectives, tell our stories, because I think it's very important. Very honored to sit next to these fine gentlemen who wear many different hats within our community. Oftentimes get, overlooked. They're doing a lot. Back to my question. Before answering the question, I just want to say aloha to my beautiful family. I wouldn't be here without the tremendous support from great Hōkūao, my parents, my brother sitting in the crowd. I also have 4 children, my oldest sitting over here, and they all give me strength. Wonderful wahine, they give me the foundation I need to stand in front of all of you today, so I just wanted to acknowledge them and that. My sacred space is right over here, within the 5-mile radius of this building. This is where I grew up, born and raised. Navaeha, Habalites. People call them the ghettos or the slums, but that was my safe space. Up housing, Kaikili Terrace, housing boys. It's emotional because when we're talking about the decline and the recovery and the place that makes you feel special, it's all encompassed right over here in Hawaiian, where I was born and raised. Also, my mom's ʻāina kuleana is right at the river mouth of Wailuku, called Kekona. And I spent majority of my adult life, maybe my entire life, maybe many lifetimes, advocating for the injustices of the decline in our water, the stealing of our water. I think you guys know Hōkūao and I for a lot of that. And also seeing the restoration of our streams is very, very important for us and our lifestyle. Taking away the water took away our lifestyle, took away the mindset. And now a lot of those things I fight for, because if we don't, it's just going to be another story or a memory for my children. I'm already a kupuna, an ancestor to my descendants because I have children. So it's important for me to spend every breath that I can to ensure that the places I grew up knowing and the things that I grew up doing is available and accessible to my descendants. Because if not, like I said, it's just going to be another memory or story. Oh, they used to swim in streams. Oh, remember when they used to fish? No, I like them be able to continue to fish, continue to swim and harvest from our streams. So like I said, I grew up right over here, right around this town, born and raised. Looks a little different than when I grew up. And hopefully it's not going to change much more. And if there is change, hopefully it's only improving this place that I grew up. Did I answer that question?
Beauty?
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, the beauty. You just walk right outside, and this piece will take your breath away. Yeah? You guys can agree with that? Every single day I'm super grateful for growing up here. I don't want to be anywhere else in the world. So it's hard for me to leave, hard for me to ever travel, because I love this place. I'm from this place. Been here for a long, long time, and I plan to continue being here. Just from our Mauka all the way down to our Makai, and everywhere in between in the Kula lands. There's beauty that maybe the normal eyes don't see. But us growing up over here, see them. And we're going to ensure that that beauty stays. Mahalo.
We're going to continue with Hōkūao. So the declines that you've seen, the changes you've seen, what concerns you? What do you wish you had back?
I think, to talk about the changes that I want to see, we cannot talk about the changes we want to see without knowing the context. So we're talking about forced displacement of Native Hawaiian people and forced assimilation into a system that doesn't value our perspectives, doesn't value our values. We're forced to live in a system that don't see things like I do, And I think it's part of our kuleana responsibility. Every single day, a new person that we gotta educate and share about the importance of keeping this place Hawaii. Every single day, it's a challenge, it's a struggle. But I think the more that we educate, within ourselves, within our households and our families, and then that goes out and trickles out, I think that's the way that we can kind of recover, the declines, the degradation, the isolation, the alienation of Native Hawaiians here and now, no? It's hard to be Hawaii in Hawaii. Super hard. It's a struggle every day. It shouldn't be like that. I should be able to feel like I'm comfortable speaking the way I speak, telling the stories that I tell anywhere on this island. We have nothing but aloha and always welcomed everyone with open arms. And if you strip us from this mindset and mentality, it won't be like that in the future. And
so you dream about that, and you actually do something about it day to day to day. So what's an example of a story that you can share that really said, yes, we're back, and that gives you hope?
Every day I wake up and I get to see my children in a warm bed. Super grateful, and that always inspires me to do better. I think we all know this one: leave a place better than you found it. That's the way we grew up. You go to the beach, you go barbecue, you leave that place, you rake them, you make them nice. And anywhere, it's instilling that mindset into our children, and hopefully they can instill it within their communities. I think it's very, very important. So the educational piece is important. And, spaces. There's not really too much spaces for Native Hawaiians to share our point of view, to share our values, and to share this piece of education. So making more spaces accessible to Native Hawaiians, for teachers to teach, for learners to learn, exactly like this. But why we gotta wait for a conference once every blue moon to be able to share our point of views? We should be able to have a space regularly where people who wanna learn the way we grew up, we can share, we can teach. But accessibility is a huge missing component within the Hawaiian community. We fight for all the things that we don't have access to. We fight for our mauna, our water, land acquisition, because we know more access to those types of things. So it's making that kind of education and awareness and that outreach to get out to people who need to hear this story. I think that could start to change some mindsets and change the way we view going forward. Mahalo.
Mahalo ko. You can pass that mic that way. And Ben, you have a mic. Can you tackle those questions? So what are those places that really give you your identity, and places of great beauty, places that you see break your heart because of this decline, and places that give you hope?
Yeah, so for me, check.
Yep.
All right. Yeah, for me, Limuhuli Valley on the north shore of Kauai is a really special place. It's someplace I've worked for a long time. It's obviously breathtakingly beautiful. There's a lot of diversity in native plants, a really diverse place. But we're starting to see a lot of weeds spreading around, covering parts of the valley in areas that are really hard to get to. And in 2018, we had a disaster of our own there. What they call a rain bomb. We had 50 inches of rain in 24 hours. And a lot of destruction in the valley and the whole community. But what really gives me hope is seeing people come together, take care of each other in those moments. And yeah, it's really puts it over the top for me.
And identity. What place gives you your source of identity? Is it Limuhuli, or were you from here or from someplace else? And
So I grew up in Oregon on a farm. And it's now been developed. So that place and the way it was isn't like that anymore. So it's hard to find that identity in those places when they have changed so greatly. for me. But yeah, I'm thankful to be here and, you know, having new places to identify with.
Excellent. And do you, the rain bomb, yes, was pretty amazing, but I'm guessing then you came to Hawaii after Iniki, because Iniki was another calamity, as well as a demonstration and a proof point that we can recover. It takes a while, but we can recover. So have you heard stories of the effects of damage of Iniki when it came?
A lot, yeah. Yeah, it's something we talk about a lot, but I wasn't here for it.
Anything about the messages or lessons learned from that?
Resiliency, really, you know, that you can take a hit and come back stronger, hopefully, you know, if we all have each other's back.
Good. Mahalo. Mahalo, Ben. Hōkūao. Oh, whoever got him. Kaipo, go.
I like that because I don't like going last. Easy answer is ko Hawaii pai ʻāina. With the cost of living, I think we invented staycations. I never get to leave Hawaii till I think I was 20 years old. First time I left Hawaii. And so we had to find all the fun gems. Our Disneyland was in Hōkūao stream and climbing trees, and we used to make believe we was at Disneyland. By the time I got to Disneyland, I was 20 years old, and it wasn't that fun anymore. Or it wasn't what I thought it was going to be. But the point being said is Hawaii is a place where I find comfort, where I can see hope. Also, where we can see the decline of its existence in all ways of forms. But to be a little bit more intimate, I guess, is the word. Kahakuloa. My family can go back multiple generations to be established in Kahakuloa prior to the kingdom. And I used to have to go, I have to go to Kahakuloa every summer. My Auntie Blanche, my grandpa's sister, would take care of the village children. We had them all up there, a huge flock, whatever you want to call it. But we would do orohana that we had to do, and then if we was good enough, we got to go play in the mulivai and jump off the bridge. And today, when I go into Kahakuloa, the lo'ikalo that I used to see is no longer active and productive. I can only tell my kids about jumping off the bridge. They cannot jump off the bridge because no more the same water volumes that had when we were kids. And that was in the middle of the summer, so it says a lot. Also, the more work we do and the more we can get together collectively as a community and support one another in our in our plight to save Hawaii is the hope that we can find. Today, I don't go out to Kakuloa very often, nowhere near as often as I should, even though I only live so far away. Just don't have that's not the right words to say, but hard to find the time. When something is important, you're going to make time for that. And, like Ko said, we brought up to leave places better than when we got there. And I never really noticed that growing up, but I know that when we'd go to the beach and we barbecue, my dad always had extra keawe. And he would not intentionally leave that away from the grill while we're cooking. So when we come up from surfing, And we like make extra fire for get warm. We had to go gather driftwood for make your fire for keep you warm. You couldn't touch that stash of kiawe in the truck. We never knew why. But before we left, my dad made us go grab the kiawe and we'd leave them by the grill when we left. And so not only we made the place better than when we left them, but we also made sure we left something behind for the next person to come along. And something simple as that is instrumental in going forward. We got to always keep that foresight in mind. And now, some of the kamali'i that are in Kakuloa, even though I'm not out there, I find ways that we run into each other. Whether it's our ka'apuni olono, or if it's in our kaiapuni programs. But the more we do, the more we reach out into our kamali'i. It just, for me, it's the recharge, yeah? Like, the thing that gives me the fuel I need to keep my engine running. And so I always put the kids out there first. And now when I see the kids in Kakuloa outside in town, they get a smile on their face and they just give me the, anakala, and that was it. And to me, that meant more to me than it did to them. And they probably do them because they was told 10,000 times to make sure you give your aloha to your uncle. But to me, it's on payment. It's like the biggest check I can get in all of my work that I do. Is just for know that the kids see us and that they know we exist out there and we're doing work what we got to do, and they don't even know that we're doing them for them. So that's my hope, is not maybe not necessarily the place, but the people. And yeah, that's my answer.
Mahalo, Kaipo. I like your start with staycation and really the mindfulness about just how the beauty of this place that we are able to call home. And I got to share a story. I fulfilled a long-time promise to my wife by taking her to Paris. I made the promise in college, and this year we celebrate our 50th wedding anniversary. I finally came through on the promise. Took me a little while, and there might not have been a 51st anniversary if I didn't do it. But they say, oh, you should go to the top of the Eiffel Tower and all this kind of stuff and look at the view. The view of what? All the rooftops of Paris. Have you guys never seen an ocean or a mountain or a forest? You don't know what beauty is if you're looking at rooftops. So anyway, staycations, I highly recommend them. What's that?
Didn't you just graduate from college? That wasn't that long ago.
Yeah, I look young, yeah. Oh. Here's a guy who's young, Noah Lincoln.
When you sent the question, I thought we had the choice, not like we had to answer all four.
We have a high bar here. Yeah. We have a high standard of kulia kanu. Come on, you can do it.
Yeah, no, they all the same space. And for me, it's Ke'e. My one hanao, where I was born, in Konahema, South Kona. For those of you who don't know, it's the southern point of Kealakekua Bay, and so you got the pali of Kealakekua and the rugged landscape of Ka'avaloa, and then the sweeping plains of Mokuohai, and they come out to Ke'e, which is also like probably the only white sand beach in all of South Kona. It's truly a really beautiful place, and a place that, is just deeply embedded in my identity. Although, as Uncle Neil alluded to, I was raised on Maui. But after I got sent to Kamehameha and then encouraged to go mainland for school and all that, and I ended up coming home, and my parents were still on Maui at the time, out in Kipahulu, and I went home because I thought it was home, and I was there for like a week, and it was just like, I don't know, it didn't feel right, and felt really called to go back to Mokuokeave. And no plan, no job, no nothing. I just moved back to Big Island and ended up back in Ke'e. And it's really been a foundational place for me since then. So yeah, it's my identity. It's super beautiful. And it's a place that we've looked at the long-term impact of that place. And Ke'e is I think even that whole South Kona region, it's a little different in that it's not being degraded and developed the way a lot of places in Hawaii are, but it's still declining in terms of, to me, like the efficacy and the relationship with the land. We saw it declining from, community-based food systems to coffee, agriculture export systems to now largely like bed and breakfast and gentleman farm kind of things. And it's it's not an environmental decline as we often think about it, but it's definitely a socio-economic decline. It's gentrification. It's just a loss of identity, a decline of identity of a location that, traditionally was famous for, paea and Kekuewa Pi'o and these famous warriors and chiefs and Umialiloa, who comes there and, establishes the royal court in Kona and develops these amazing, the Kala'ulu system that stretched across the landscape, and these stories of just abundance and greatness. And I feel like what's there now is not greatness. It's not greatness. I don't know what it is, but it's definitely not greatness. And so, I really feel the loss for the area when I think about, what it's becoming and where it's going. And at the same time, it is a place whose recovery gives me a lot of hope. So one of the first projects I did as part of my PhD was looking at the Kala'ulu system of South Kona, which was a famous breadfruit agroforestry. It's supposed to be an agroforestry. Okay, good. I was just checking. But it was a famous agroforestry system of South Kona, a breadfruit belt that stretched about 18 miles from Honaunau in the south up to Ka'ulupalehu in the north. And as part of my research, we really looked to define that system. Like, I really wanted to know why, right? Like, because it was narrow. It was only like half-mile wide and kind of snaked across the landscape. And I just became fascinated with, like, why did my ancestors put it right here? Not a little higher, not a little lower, not a little fatter, right? It's like right here. And so he spent a lot of time, looking into this. We won't go into all the details of what we did, but
his research is really cool, and he should present it someday.
But one of the outcomes, because we also surveyed a bunch of trees, looked at how much food it produced in the past. And our estimate, our best estimate, bringing all these things together, was about 30 million pounds of ulu annually. Huge number, but now that I really start working in the food system, my wife and I started the Hawaii Ulu Producers Co-op and working on getting breadfruit back into our local food system. And as we started digging into all the numbers and stuff, the amount of potatoes Hawaii imports every year, about 25 million pounds. So that became our goal for the Ulu Co-op, was basically, restoring the amount of ulu that the Kala'ulu once produced and basically replacing our potato imports in Hawaii by restoring these systems. And so how we got started, about 9 years ago now, again, on a Kamehameha Schools lease, we got a 3.7 acre parcel right in the heart of the Kala'ulu, back in Ke'e Ahupua'a, and we started restoring that Kala'ulu system that was there 200 years ago. Just to start. And have a place where we could show people, right, that this is what was here, before. It's all the Kona coffee belt now. Basically, the whole Kona coffee belt used to be ulu. But yeah, starting that little, 3-acre farm, and just starting to bring back that, 9 square mile system, gives me a lot of hope that it can be done, and with the right will and momentum and interest, it will be done. So.
There's a lot there for you to be sharing with Kaipo as he works bringing the ulu back to Lele that I think you can learn from. Ke is amazing. It is so beautiful, and what's even more amazing, it seems like a big world that going from the kai to that bluff, but you get above there and it like goes on forever to Mauna Loa, and toward Hualalai. So it's massive land. No Hona. How's is that going to be your answer? Am I guessing your answer?
Aloha. Yeah, my sanctuary, my hiding place. Nawaiʻeha, predominantly Wailuku, Waikapu, where I was born and raised. I can say now that's my sanctuary, because I recognize, I understand, I appreciate its historical and current value. When I grew up, it was a plantation town. My wife always says she drove past Waikapu, didn't even know that Waiko Road existed, and there was a small little store on Honoapi'ilani Highway, and being born and raised in Waikapu, in that particular area, completely surrounded by sugarcane until I was 11, and then pineapple until I was, in my 20s. That's kind of all I knew. And, traversing up and down the valley and swimming above diversions, but not even understanding what the functionality of those things were. I wasn't woke, like that, and it's not to put any blame on it, but just like I wasn't paying attention to kupuna that were probably talking to me about these things, or even just talking to others in my ohana about these significant places. And I just wanted to be outside and play in the river and in the hau bush, but I didn't recognize until a lot later in life how important these places were. The work that Koa and many others throughout Nawaiʻeha to stand up kind of against the beast, to at a time that wasn't so popular, when all of us for the most part have some connection to plantation, right? And so you don't wanna rub up against that, and that was tough. That was a tough time when the blue shirts and the red shirts came out saying share the water, and we were like, we have no water to share, because everything was depleted or taken away from the watersheds. And as people began to get involved in Nawaiʻeha, like for me, I don't really differentiate between people and place. Those two really go hand in hand. And Nawaiʻeha can't be Nawaiʻeha, Lahaina can't be Lahaina without the generational, lineal ohanas that are connected to that place. Nawaiʻeha is far and few. Since the fires, I am not of Lahaina, but I feel, at least in this moment, in these last few months, more connected to Lahaina sometimes than I do in my own moku and ahupua'a. And that's because Lahaina still has many of the generational families. They still have that ike kupuna, and they have that political, spiritual, cultural will to want to, like, not just restore, but to really to breathe life back into a place that, in all aspects, like my work in Nawaiʻeha has been very laser focused around the streams and watersheds, but there's so much more that make up Nawaiʻeha. You know, Noah alluded to the 30 million pounds of ulu in the kalu'ulu of South Kona, and Nawaiʻeha was almost exactly the same. You know, those numbers of 30 million pounds of kalo was being produced from Waikapu to Wahe'e. A place where, you know, I think, if I can remember the part of the question, about a place where, you know, kind of saddens me, you know, is that Barbie-colored water right now in Kealia. You know, a lot of hype, a lot of selfies, a lot of pictures, a lot of news, CNN, you know, everybody just running amok in that place. And, you know, I'm sorry, but it really pisses me off, being that Kealia is a really significant part of the ahupua'a that our ohana and many ohana are trying to steward. And because of, you know, this coloration, right? And that's it, like it looks cool, right? It takes a nice picture, but you know, trying to educate people that what's happening there is a direct cause of what's happening up Mauka, where we live, and that's the fact that we are going through the worst drought on record right now. Some of the earliest data we have of stream flow in our streams go back to 1907. Lowest flows this year. Waikapu stream has not been flowing to Kealia since March. And it's been a total 360 because Kealia became the abundant wetland, local wai, and beginning to have pa'akai as it once was in 2016, which is why I named my daughter Kealia Pa'a Ikeaho, to honor that period when Waikapu stream began to flow to Kealia. Never did I think that we were going to go back to pre-2016, where now Kealia has not a drop of water in it. And it's not because of stream being diverted, it's because the drought has impacted our stream so much so that it just fans out into the plains of Kama'oma'o, you know, about 2.5 miles before the wetland. And that's scary, you know. And where I found hope, now I find fear again, and making me rethink all over again about how, again, like this laser focus that I had that I think is kind of a downfall for me, to just look at the stream, but knowing that the riparian buffer that allows water to saturate, but also to continue to flow to Kealia, doesn't exist anymore. And agroforestry was a part of that. The dryland forest and coastal forest of Kama'oma'o was a part of that. The dune systems of, you know, Pu'u, I'ihi, all the way to Kealia, you know, pretty much don't exist anymore. That helped also buffer that system that captured moisture. So we're really looking at a very different landscape now than it once was. And the work that I feel like that kuleana that we have is to restore that watershed, that stream corridor, and beyond, going both, you know, to the north and to the south of our stream, to ensure that water continues, or at least will flow once again back to Kealia.
Mahalo. I don't want people to walk away with your discussion about self-description of having a laser-focused Waikapu, because Hōkūao is everywhere. And what you see with him is the sharing of his knowledge and his leadership on this issue. East Maui, Lahaina, across our ʻāina, he's there. He shows up. And it's really beneficial to our larger community. Mahalo, Hōkūao. So is that it? Is that your answer to the second question? Is it climate change? Is it climate change and this drought? Is it the second question that we asked the panelists was, you know, what's the greatest threat out there?
It's awareness. It's education for me. Like going back to Kealia, like prime example. You know, like we're going there because something, you know, is capturing our eye, right? It looks pretty, but we're not, but with very little understanding of the why. and not just, okay, why is the water pink, but why is there no water in a wetland anymore? So for me, it's awareness and it's education. That's why for me, like I feel like what I do in my day-to-day, you know, at Kamehameha, and trying to do my best to make these keiki aware of their surroundings. I feel like if that's the only kuleana I could have, I would love to just do that, because you know, for me, like I said, I learned these things a lot later in life. I don't want my keiki, I don't want the keiki that I, you know, have the fortune to educate to wait 20 some years to wake up.
Pass the mics around. Noah, you got a mic? What are your thoughts about
I got a mic.
the greatest threat?
I mean, I don't know about I think long-term climate change is really scary, but the immediacy, I want to say poor leadership. You know, I think I see so many amazing initiatives and passion and ideas in our communities, in our organizations, in this, and I just see things stifled, particularly at the governmental level, and then just pouring resources toward silly things in the status quo. You know, I'm not going to get into a rail discussion, but I often think about, like, what could we have done for ag in Hawaii with $11 billion when we give our Department of Ag, like, you know, $10 million a year? You know, that's 10,000 years of our Department of Ag's funding going towards a rail that broke down 2 months in and is not going to ever get finished. I mean, it's just, so yeah, I mean, the leadership and the governmental structures that are entrenched in supporting status quo concepts and ideas, I think that's the greatest threat, because we need to change direction, and they're not even slowing down yet in the direction they're going in. Yeah.
Kaipo, you want to build on that? Or add another issue?
Yeah, I totally can get behind that with Noah. Farmers Union, we do lobbying at our capital, and so I can speak from experience on what he's talking on. But I think there's also something else, and it's, you know, it's definitely, like Hōkūao said, education. I think a big part is our disconnect, just period. I mean, look at my two kids. They're staring at our cell phones right now. Like, we're just so disconnected that we miss what is important, right? Somebody asked me, oh, would you guys be using rain catchments in Lahaina? And, you know, in my head, I was like, first of all, it doesn't really rain in Lahaina very much. So I don't know how efficient that would be. And then I started to think, like, wait a minute. Bringing back our forests is the biggest rain catchment you can do. Like, we gotta think big and get away from our so limited scopes and understanding of ways that we need to go forward. Like, rain catchment for your house or rain catchment for the entire Mauka. Like, those are simple concepts. I mean, look at our isthmus, right? Great, we got ag happening. At the cost of what? Where is that water coming from? We channel it so far across, and then people are going to say, like, oh, get plenty of water in Kula, you just got to drill more wells. Like, we just keep going the wrong way every day. It's because we're just so disconnected from an understanding of where we need to be. I mean, what if these big corporate situations that are making efforts to provide food systems poured into that type of a rain catchment system? What if they were responsible to restoring Kula's watershed systems, where then the water systems could be flowing and restoring and providing the waters that they need, so that they would no longer have to deplete someone else's miles and miles and miles away? I mean, Pi'ilani, I said it earlier, right? He'd made the longest OI system. That thing was 6 miles long. Plantations came in and made our OI systems look like kids' trails in the dirt. those things took us so far away from anything that we need to be at. So I think if we as a collective could find our grounds once again and understand the value in it, make that connection and our responsibilities, obligate ourselves to ensure that their existence happens, then all due respect for any of our political leaders out there, but the hell with those guys. We don't need them anymore if we as a collective going to be taking care of those resources. If we bring those sources of life back into our ʻāina, we don't need to worry about any policies. We don't need to worry about where our plate going to come from. We don't have to worry about the roof over our head because we're going to make sure that that's all present for all of us. We're going to do that ourselves. And so I know that I kind of speak of a dream world, but that's all we can do. That's where it starts, is in the dream. And so if we can come up with those dreams and we can speak to them and we can stand behind them, then catchments would no longer be needed. Wells would be outdated. And diversions would be centralized around the sources and the community that they're from, and not being routed out to provide for others while taking away from others. Like Hōkūao said, share the water, but we don't have any water. Like, how are we supposed to share? And that's the same story all the way across our state, across the kingdom. So it's all in us, guys. Like, whatever. If they're going to tell you go out there and vote, then go out there and vote, but make sure you're voting for the right person. Huh? And, yeah, understand what we're asking for. So when we vote that right person in, we can hold them obligated to what we need done. And that's starting with the Wauakua and the mountain ranges. If you understand that structure and breakdown of what our kupuna valued, is the Wauakua, the Waukele, the Kānaka, that speaks magnitudes of how it was functioning and what its responsibilities were. Waukele is, like, Kele is what I get. You got a little bit extra too much over there. So the land had a little bit extra too much where we could actually benefit from without our direct effort of, like, consistently maintaining. Where versus your Wau Kānaka was your day-to-day work efforts going into the land to sustain your communities. And the Wauakua was someplace where we're not supposed to be. That's the place for the kuas. That's the place where we leave alone. And that we have that responsibility to ensure its existence by us staying out of it. The more we intrude, the more we create havoc, the more disaster we create, the more problems we produce. So we got to build those things back up because we would destroy them. We got rid of them. And so building forests, building that Wauakua, producing Waukeles, and then maintaining our Waukanaka is where our connections need to be. And for me, that's my answer to where the biggest fears that I see coming up and the causes of what we're going to be dealing with. Even though these guys stare at the phone, I still get hope in them that they're going to put those things down one day. And, you know, this guy, he used to do every single job with me on the farm, whether it was cutting out haulikos and pulling weeds, laying down our mulch and compost, harvesting food every day. And he did it with a smile. When my wife was over it, my son was still doing it. And today, I cannot get him off of the damn phone. But one day, he's going to put the phone down. Good luck, man. He can put the phone down and he's going to start planting again.
Maybe he's sending you a question.
Yeah. I would be afraid to find out what question that would be. What time we going to go home?
Right here. Send it right here. Mahalo. Go.
Take it easy on the government, guys.
Okay, so you can vote, yes, and we're kind of giving you the last question, but you can vote.
I'm joking,
but you can also make yourself available to serve and be the ones we're voting for, and that's what this guy did.
Yeah, I say that, and I think this is a safe space to share that. You know, it's not easy jumping into this role. I was always grumbling. I was pounding the pavement. But I said, okay, if that's not working, then maybe I go get involved. And I'm grateful for the Bison administration for bringing me on to be able to share my perspectives and my views. And as long as that's looked at and valued, I'll hang out. But as soon as that's not valued, then, you know, the ʻāina call me every single day. So it calls me home every single day. And I think there's one thing before I forget this train of thought, like, let's identify government leaders who are doing something. Get plenty of them that don't get appreciated for the work that they do. Back to the threat of the environment. We all know as Hawaiians, as Oiwi, that the environment is the reflection of the kānaka and vice versa. So, kind of sick of the people, kind of sick of the environment. Well, we need to go and diagnose that. So I was looking at a lens through Mauleola. Like, what is wrong? Let's diagnose this and let's go and figure out how to fix it. In order to fix it, I always going back to this, like, identify what is the context, okay? What happened? How we went from the most food, water, housing secure to the most insecure and all of those. You know, what happened? Did we know that there was one species introduced every 10,000 years before anybody came to Hawaii? Now we get, might be crazy now, maybe like 26 to 30 new species being introduced to Hawaii every single month. You know, so one every 10,000 years to one every month, or 26 every month. And there's new ways we got to develop, threats that we, not all of them are threats, but we got to find out new, resilient ways, innovative ways to treat it. So earlier I talked about access as being one of the needs, but also it's one of the challenges, okay? We went from the endemic species capital of the world, the most biodiverse native forests in all of the world, to now the invasive species capital of the world. So if we never know that, well, open your damn eyes, ask somebody, because that's a huge threat. Invasive species, you know, CRB lurking around the corner. You know, it's not only a threat to the palms and the coconut trees, but also our native Hawaiian canoe crops. The things that sustained us through hurricanes is now a threat. Look after the fires, and after hurricanes, you see the things that are still there, still standing as our food, our uala, our kalo, the mai'as they grind, you know, but if CRB come in, that's another threat that we gotta figure out, you know. You know, the other threat, we kind of all touched upon this, is the structural environmental genocide, you know, a system that is all about economics. We gotta change the measuring stick and look at what is right, not what make money. Yeah. It's hard being in restoration because number one, return on investment. So nobody like invests in that stuff, right? Why would we give you money for plant trees? It doesn't make us money back. Well, brother, tita, we gotta start changing our values. You know, we kind of fix things because, you know, Kelia is pretty, but like, Kelia is pretty right now. But like, how come we never look at all the environmental injustices, and how come we never have that much attention going to Kelia before that had happened? You know, it's because our values is all skewed. You know, the drought, huge threat to our environment. Drought will just happen, you know. There's human intervention. There's things that are happening, you know, like industrial scale tillage, you know. We breathe in what the plants breathe out, and vice versa. And when we till, we take away that ability for us to breathe. So you look at Kaho'olawe, you know, you look at different places that were degraded, desertified, you know, desertification. Look all that stuff up. No more time to talk about all of that deeply, but look at, you know, the desertification, you know, of our ʻāina throughout the state is a huge threat for our existence to continue to be here. You know, nobody live Kaho'olawe for what reason? Well, it's not too far away if we don't do something about it. And then applaud the efforts. Go out there, look for the people who are doing something, volunteer, congratulate. One simple thank you goes a long way. It's a struggle. It was a struggle outside of government, and it's the same frustrations and struggle when I stay in the government. You know, we all live in the same place. People think that, well, you know, not people, but just speaking for like the county is who? Who take care of our parks? Who take care of, our wahi? It's us. It's our community. It's our family. And there's a lot of good work that's happening. We gotta focus on the things that we can do, not what we can't do. I think that's very critical for us to, I'm happy for this platform to be able to share. Like, there's a lot of good efforts out there. Not only us guys up here, but a lot of people, a lot of our heroes, you're not gonna see them on social media. They're way deep in the kuahivis. They don't even access to the internet, but they're doing some killer work that we should be paying attention to. The biggest threat is our kupuna leaving faster than we're getting them. Huge threat to the environment. We don't know how to take care of this place once they're gone. I get hope that we are who we were, which is resilient, innovative. Those are things that echo through time, the people who were able to be innovative and resilient in a time of turmoil. Who's stepping up and who running away? Let's pay attention. Oevale.
Mahalo ko. Ben? So you get drones, drones can take out bad weeds and so forth in remote places very efficiently. How about bad leaders? You can take out bad leaders. No.
That's what they're developing.
Wait. Sorry.
So my answer was going to be invasive plants and animals in our ecosystems. I think it's such a huge threat. They're taking up water, choking out native ecosystems, and there's different threats in each place. But these guys convinced me that, awareness, priorities, connection is really a bigger threat. So, change my answer.
He's listening, he's learning. We all are. Thank you. More on that? Okay. So, no, I was trying to go from like the macro to the micro of agroforestry, but I also promised the audience that this was their session and they could, so hold these thoughts. We'll come back to it. We still got another hour or 45 minutes or so, right? But I want to get to some of the questions that have been, about 20 questions have come in, so it's good. So we're going to do, not everybody has to respond, but if you have something on this, feel free. Could you share your thoughts on how agroforestry will support people's mental and spiritual health? So somebody's trying to bring us back to topic. Might as well be them. So thoughts on how agroforestry will support people's mental and spiritual health?
I think from a cultural lens, it's pretty clear. Right? That's our kin, that's our akua, that's like literally who we are and identify with. And I think these guys are more articulate. But let's share that the science supports that too. There's all sorts of science showing that being in proximity of a tree lowers your blood pressure, lowers crime rates, lowers aggression, lowers all sorts of things physically, spiritually, psychologically, and like a lot of things, I think Western science is just catching up, right, to what indigenous peoples, not just here in Hawaii, but globally have known for forever. But now there is like hard Western science that shows that these are not just like feel-good concepts, like they're factually true. Like it literally improves our health to be in the presence of la'au. And there's a whole bunch of different perspectives you can look at that from, but it's true.
I'm just gonna give a go at this because this is what's coming to my mind. But when I think of agroforestry, I think of companionship, right? It's the ability for these canoe crops that our kupuna brought on, 1,000 miles of voyaging, to Hawaii, to be able to coexist with each other without without competing with one another, right? And so agroforestry to me resembles our ability to collectively work together. And so I know there was that spirituality piece, but that's what I think of, just the ability for them to grow alongside of each other, not to overcompete, and actually become more beneficial because they're growing together, and that it's companionship. It really is. You know, when you see these plants together, it feels like, you know, you're with your homies, you know, just cruising, and you just, that's what it feels like, you know, when I think about agroforestry in that respect.
Wow, cool.
Yeah, it's if we look at the forest, you look at agroforestry. Oh man, it's all new terminology. But if you look at the forest, we can learn a lot about how we can live. You know, we ask these questions, but those questions. I mean, it's a good question, but we need to be more educated about that. We're not separate from our environment. It's all one and the same. You know, so developing environmental kinship, like plants. They give personalities. Plants have emotions. Plants have memory. You know, only now science catching up. Hawaiians been talking about this kind of stuff a long time. You know, so in our restoration projects with my family, we always think about the family unit. You know, in order for, well, let's just use an example. Monocrop. You're going to throw a cocoa tree out by itself alone. Their chances of growing up and surviving in whatever success you may think success may be is not as greater as one that grow up together with ohana. So when we plant, you got to have the makua, you got to have the kupuna, you got to have the opio, got to have the keiki. You know, the companionship that you're talking about, they have an intimate relationship. And now science telling us that when one is deficient in nitrogen, the one that get planting, gonna be like, yeah, here you go, brother. And the one that's deficient in something else, they learn how to share. And they also communicate. You know, when diseases come true, that's why it's important. Agroforestry is a family unit. Everybody working together. So when a kid is vulnerable to disease, pests, predators, get your uncles and aunties, your brothers and sisters all the way around you to protect you, to warn you that something is coming. And the plants put on their armor because they talk stories. There's a language there, you know. So to me, mental health, spiritual, all of that is healthy. We the ones are disconnected from it. It's time for us to plug back in and learn, you know, like how to deal with all this stuff. So the ʻāina is always healing. Thank you for the question.
Kaipo, you?
Yeah, absolutely. We're just joking, get like an underground network in agroforestry, but literally get an underground network. Right. Like the roots meet each other and they communicate. And even as far as like drought, like I don't know enough water right now. Believe it or not, those trees can work ways into where they're going to shed more of their resource, of what they have, to that fellow companion over there. When the kids come to our farm site, I share with them like, hey, you know what our responsibility is within this forest system? We're the matchmakers. We out there, we finding out who's who and where's what, and ensuring that their relationships is healthy and strong, and that's the only responsibility we get. I talk to them about the microbes in the soil, and I ironically, not seeing what we'd be dealing with, but I used to tell them like, you know, this section of our field, when we harvest from here and we rip up everything that we need, we are destroying communities in their environment, their duplex housing systems that they've created for their own existence. We're ripping through them and we're destroying them. And we're leaving them like one hurricane just came ripping through their whole existence. And I told them, what happens when you see one hurricane rip through that whole space? They turn around and all the other little microbes, all our Red Cross and all our FEMA people that show up and our EPA guys, we get that too in our ʻāina. And those guys, they come into the system where the destruction took place and they bring aid. They restore their systems in place. And when they finish, they go back to where they came from. And the people that was destroyed and wrecked went retreat into their pu'uhonuas. So they go into the space where it's safe and still intact, and then they go back. That's happening in our community right now. And it's the same existence within the forest system. And so what that brings us to is the foundations of some of our core values as kānaka, right? Aloha i ke kahi ke kahi. And that's reflected in Christianity's religion, right? What is that, the second commandment or something, right? Love thy as you love me, the Creator. Just love thy neighbor the same way. So it's the same concepts that is existing within that forest system. And so when we get to understand and we build that connection back into those things, you're going to have that spiritual healing because you're going to know that you have a responsibility to make those things exist. And when you give all your attention into something that you're putting all your effort to exist, you're going to pray for those things. You might find yourself praying more for your own efforts of work than you do pray for your own family. And that's not necessarily a bad thing because your effort in there is the same effort you're producing for your family. And we produce for our family in that way and that effort consistently every day. That's why we run the 9-to-5s. Some of us run the 8 to whatever, 8, you know. Some of us actually do that because we have to ensure the betterment of our family. And we just need to be able to find those values within ourselves and share that with our land and with all of that existence in the forest. And I think we're going to start to see better change for us all. And so for me, that's where you're going to find the mental health and the spiritual health is through your practice. And if you're not doing it, then you can't expect to find it. So that would be my answer.
Wow. Were you going to add anything, Ben?
Yeah, I mean, not specifically to the agroforestry thing, but the spiritual connection to the environment. You know, I didn't grow up in the Hawaiian culture, but ever since I was a kid, I felt like connected, you know, with nature. I felt like something was, you know, bigger inside of me when I was there. And so, you know, learning more and more about the Hawaiian culture and people's connections with nature, it just, you know, it makes me full, you know, it fills me up, and this working with plants and natural environments, it does the same. So I'll just say it's a nice, happy, good experience to be
Mahalo for sharing that.
with that.
So we have about, say, 15 and 7, 22 minutes, and we got about 22 questions. So that'll give you some idea of the pace of the responses. So add where you can and where we need to, but we'll do what we can. How can native plants and food continue as we face drought limitations and also tourists' use of so much water in pools and golf courses and showers? So how do we strike this balance? You ought to ask a water commissioner that or somebody like that. Anybody know one? Go ahead. What's your answers to that?
Said I was done, but I guess not. How come they ask the farmers for all the answers? Like, okay, we build structures for our farm needs. Yeah, we put irrigation in for our plants. Yes, we tend to our soils and grow food and market them and package them and even do value added. Yes, the tourism is a big impact on the vitality of agriculture moving forward. Is there a way that can coexist? I believe so. At the scale that we currently have, maybe not. I don't know, these answers got to be found somewhere else. I mean, we can give you our perspectives on those situations, but really, I don't think the industry of tourism is listening to our farmers. And so, I would hate to say this, but it is all of our responsibility to figure out how those economic dependencies are going to be something that we can live through. Like, yeah, R1 water may be used on golf courses today and maybe not. As far as Kaanapali's tourism situations for Lahaina, most of those situations have developed their own water sources. And so our county doesn't even have any real authority over those systems. I mean, how do we tell our tourists to not take long, hot showers? I'm pretty sure in my house, you can ask my older kids. I get 2 older girls, 16 and 14. You know what that age looks like. I'm always at the door at the bathroom. sometimes I just lie to them. I just tell them, hey, hurry up, I gotta use the bathroom. Well, I don't need to use the bathroom. I just let them get out of the shower because I paid a water bill. And we need all water. I don't wash my car. The golf courses is green, still to today. Our entire landscape is dry and brown all the way around. I mean, Napili is browner now than I've ever seen it in my entire life. And I've never seen it go brown. And my sister, who doesn't live in Lahaina anymore, but is actively involved in agriculture all the time, jokes with me, not jokes with me, she laughs at me when I speak to the vision and dreams that we have. She's like, brah, you don't have the water. And I'm like, yeah, I know. That's why the golf course is green. And we have water features on all of those systems. And the same runoff that is produced off of those systems in the hotel industries, their landscapes, they're not doing good practice. I love all of our people, don't get me wrong, but the structures that we exist in needs to be changed. Our hotels provide landscapes with our invasive species that are more detrimental to the environment than we realize. And so we got to pivot those things, and we got to start to plan and build those structures that are suitable to the environment. And I don't know, maybe our golf courses, if they're going to use so much water, we should start to make those our agroforest sites. Like, I mean, why not have one citrus tree and one ulu tree and whatever else we want to have growing right there on a golf course? And then have one food production system or one workforce that goes and harvests and maintains that alongside the golf course effort. Like, if we're going to continue to live that way and continue to have our irrigation systems running throughout the day to water the 18 holes, I mean, the golf courses are already failing, guys. Look at Kapalua. How many holes they had? They had 3 different courses. What they get running right now? 1. Yeah? Waikapu, same system. How many courses had? Only 1 left. Every single system we've ever had on economics have failed. We have to realize that. Only 1 system was working, and that was the one of old Hawaii. And everybody speaks to it as if it was a myth, as if it was just some story that was fabricated in time. That was it, and that is it. And until we realize that that is it, then we're going to continue to run into dead-end lanes. We're going to fall over edges into the abyss because we're not figuring it out. We're not listening. We keep going into the same circular system that we have no solution in. There's nothing there for us. Now, does that mean we get rid of tourism? I think we would be pretty ignorant to imagine that that would happen. That would also come with arrogance if you think that could, if you would pursue that. So integrate it, mandate it, make it a requirement. Let every system in the hotel have a closed circular water system of the R1s for their toilets. It's difficult to have that accomplished in a community level system, because that means 2 water lines to every household, 1 of wastewater. I'm not even going to go into the details. Anyway, you can accomplish that in a hotel much easier than you could in a community. And so those systems, they should be required to do so. And as we get into the retreat discussion, which nobody wants to have, except for us, when those hotels need to retreat from the shoreline, because it will come, when they do, and we make space, because I know we will, it's just in our nature, we're going to build new hotels. And when we do, let's make sure that they're built right. Like, let's make sure that they are responsible for their impacts that they create upon not only our economy, because the going's good when the going is good, but when the going is bad, like for us right now in Lahaina, that system ain't there for us. Yeah, we housed in those hotels right now, but they didn't do that for free. It came with a cost, a large cost. And we're going to feel that next year and the year following, not us in Lahaina. Yeah, we're going to feel them. We're already feeling them. But But everybody gonna start to feel that, whether you believe it or not, right across the whole state. Our town brought choke economic stability to the bigger effort of our state. And so, going forward, when the change needs to be made, we need all of us there to remind our leadership that that change needs to happen. And until then, tourism doesn't really have a solution for us in our stability. I haven't yet seen it. They've provided small systems here and there. You know, they make little efforts, but really that's not even crumbs. It's
So how
granules.
do we change that, Kaipo? How do we give him his applause, his due applause? But you know, if we make it either or, either those tourists or us farmers or whatever, you're predicting there's going to be a bunch of conflict and so forth, and not necessarily the right answers to have one victor and one loser. If we're going to bring these together and rethink how we do tourism and support farming on an integrated basis and comprehensive basis, how do those conversations happen? Are those conversations happening? Should they be happening? What do you recommend? Others here. Maybe our government official
Anyone
can
else?
start. You can start on that with maybe what you're trying to do in your seat.
I'll say it.
Okay, say it.
How about having every single position in a hotel, every single position ran by people of our community? No more bringing in professional positions with titles that exceed our community's not capable or doesn't have that capacity. Give us that, what is it called, professional development course that you need us to take. Put our people in those positions and let it run from top down with our community. We can start with that. You want to move into another discussion? Let's see. I know that the tourism tax systems is widely obscured and just messy altogether, right? And rightfully so, because there's been this fracture in our system to identify proper allocations for those resources. So let's redefine that. Let's look at the tax systems and see how much of that actually contributes to the bigger watershed efforts. Where does it pour into our needs to sustain our ecosystems? Let's talk about how their water systems can better suit the needs of the land over the needs of their visitor industry. We don't need swimming pools. We get the biggest swimming pools right outside their doorstep. I mean, how come we got to create these facade waterfalls with lava features and pools that our kids, not our kids, but their kids and all our visitors got to go and venture through? Like, we have the best of the best. That's why they come here. But then we still got to create this facade to keep them circular in their own extractive finances of that hotel industry. That's really why it's there. It's not there. We already get one bar down the road. How come we get one bar in the pool? Like, all of that stuff is extractive. They're trying to bring the tourists here and keep them there. Like, bring them into the community. Make policy that provides space to give them a true experience of Hawaii. Build it in our community. Keep that circular economy going, not just for farmers, but for all of us. I like to see my little niece that make macaroons. I don't even know how she make them. I don't care. I buy them from her. She show up at the farmer's market. That's on farmer's market. She's selling macaroons. I don't care. That's our community making their own finances so that they can determine for themselves how they're going to move forward in life. We need more of that. We need a whole lot more of it.